Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome to the parent leadership team. If it is your first time, again, welcome. And if it's your first time back in a while, welcome back home. So we have an amazing group of student services coming in today for a mental health presentation. But first, I would like to introduce Kevin Carrero from Palm Point. He's our sponsor today. That is how we have coffee and breakfast burritos and Danish. So I know you did great. He has no idea, but yeah, I'm going to have some prizes afterwards. So this is Kevin.
Good morning, everybody. So just out of curiosity, raise your hand. How many people have heard of Palm Point Behavioral Health? Okay, so I got some work to do. All right. So we're a sponsor here this morning. Thank you for having us. Looks like you guys are going to have a really cool morning. I was at a training the other day where it was said that there's no health without mental health, right? So if you think about that really quickly, that's important. Mental health has come to the forefront in the last couple of years, and deservingly so. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be a major part of what we're doing every day for the students and for ourselves, right? Because it's important that we're taking care of ourselves. So for those of you that don't know about Palm Point Behavioral Health, we are a 74-bed facility in Titusville, psychiatric hospital, crisis stabilization. So we are not a residential facility. We are there to take care of people that are struggling, having challenges, and don't feel safe. They come to us for short term. We follow up with them, ensure that they have resources and the things that they need once they're back into the community. We also offer intensive outpatient programming for adults. We're working on getting a program back together for adolescents. And for those that aren't familiar with that, that is essentially group counseling in a really intensive mode where they come 3 days a week for 3 hours a day. And again, they are in a group sort of capacity. So really with that said, my goal is to be here today to answer any questions that you might have. You have a full spectrum of stuff happening to you today, so I'm not gonna waste any more of your time. I'm set up out here in the lobby. So if you take a break and you have any questions or you wanna stop by and chat, I would love to be able to have that opportunity to do so with you. We are actually celebrating our 4th anniversary in November, so that's really exciting. We're gonna have a little shindig up at our place. So there's an invite out there if anybody is interested and wants to come, maybe snap a picture or grab my card, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to get you registered. We're really excited about it. We're really excited about partnering with BPS and being more out and about in the community so that we make sure that the parents, you guys, are familiar with what we do. And what I want to leave you with is when I was 21 years old, my first job out of college was a liaison for adults that had been in long-term psychiatric care. This was in Western Massachusetts, and when I tell you about what this hospital looked like, just think Stephen King, long, windy road on top of a hill with the big pillars and brick buildings and sort of kind of scary, right? Palm Point, I can assure you, is not that. It's a state-of-the-art, brand new facility. We have a scratch chef who comes in and makes everything from the ground up. The facility is open, it's airy, it's light. And like I said, I mentioned it's state of the art. It really is. It's a beautiful facility. And while we want to focus on prevention, diversion, and all these great programs that BPS is doing, the fact of the matter is sometimes these services are still needed. So we're here for you if you need anything. I'll be out in the lobby if anybody has any questions or concerns or wants to chat with me, and I'll be here till about noon and a little bit after if need be, and we'll go from there. Okay? Thanks. Enjoy your morning. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, so
I'm sorry. Yeah, so typically how that might happen is if a student's having a challenge during the day and they feel that there's an emergency, at that point, that's when they would typically contact law enforcement, something that might be Baker acted. But there's also some other avenues for that. So yeah, well, what happens is we're a Baker Act receiving facility in crisis stabilization. So the other option would be that there's also some voluntary options where the parents could reach out to us. So that's where we can talk a little bit offline about that and have a conversation because there are the opportunity to do voluntary as well. Sometimes what happens though is it escalates and that's where that kind of starts from. But that's why I'm here to have the conversation with everybody so that everyone's aware of where we're at. But we can absolutely talk offline and have more conversation about that for sure. Okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to use a microphone. You're asking questions. Our online viewers cannot hear the question.
Thanks, Mike. So we are going to draw for a Publix gift card and a Wawa gift card, courtesy of Palm Point. So Kevin's going to draw the first one for me. Yeah, everyone get your tickets out. Sorry. All right. 3, 2, 4. Anybody in the house? 907. And you can pick since you were first. All right, she grabbed Publix. So up for grabs next is Wawa. Stir it up, stir it up, stir it up. Three, 2, 4, 901. Awesome. Okay. So thank you so much, Kevin. He will be out there in the hall. So if so he'll be right out there. If you have any questions that you want to talk with him about, like he said, offline, more personal type questions, he will absolutely be there to help you and navigate through those situations. So next, I would like to introduce the Student Services team. They are going to be presenting a lot of great information for you today, and there are some activities, so be excited and be ready for that. This is Jana Jenkins.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing very well after the confusion and last week with Ian. And I'm really glad to see you all here in one piece and safe and happy. My name is Jana Jenkins. I am one of 5 directors in the Division of Student Services. Our department we work with the school psychologists, the social workers, and the behavior team in the schools. So we have staff all out in the schools, and then we have some district staff of whom I will introduce in a minute. Embedded in that is also our crisis response team, where we assist schools and staff and students for responding to any crises, as well as providing those supports that Kevin was speaking a little bit about earlier. I would like to introduce our staff. This is Dr. Channa Spear. She's our assistant director for our department. And everybody over there, I will announce their name, but everybody over there will be sharing with you in this soon or have developed and supported this professional development. So Carrie Dixon is one of our district social workers. Mariah Winfield, excuse me. Mariah Winfield is our crisis response social worker. Melanie Orland is our suicide risk inquiry consultant, and Lori Crosby is another district social worker. So they have all contributed to this and will be sharing and supporting the activities for today. All right, so we would like to take this time with you to share a lot of the good programming and opportunities that our staff provide in Brevard school staff to support the mental and emotional health education of our students and staff. That all is founded in a community in the classroom, and that's the foundation for developing that community and the good relationships among the students, from students with staff and staff to staff. So that's our foundation, but we would like to give you an idea of some of the good things that are happening in our schools, as well as a training opportunity for you, should you be interested. We have that available to you. And so we'll give you a little snapshot today of what that training can look like, just so you'll have an idea if there's something that you would be interested in. So we have 3 sections. The first section, we'll go over an overview of what is mental health first aid in our schools. We will have some activities with that. We will also give you an introduction to our mental wellness pathway process, which is the way we identify students who may need supports and connect them with supports, as well as a lot of resources and, like I said, that training opportunity, should you be interested in that. So that's our agenda for the next hour or so. And to move forward, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Spear.
Good morning. So those of you who were here at our last parent leadership training, you know we like to get you up and doing some kind of silly things, kind of break the ice and get going. So you might have noticed on your table are balloons. So I need you to find a partner, and between the two of you, you need a balloon. Hopefully between the two of you, one of you can blow up and tie a balloon, because that's your next step. So get a partner and blow up your balloon. I'll give you a moment to get that done. Excellent. Uh-oh. All right, we're going to come back together in 3, 2, 1. Perfect. So with your partner, you're going to take your balloon. You are going to need to stand up. So just like the activities we did last month, just developmentally with the brain, it gets you moving when you're crossing that midline. Not always doing left things with your left hand, right things with your right hand. So you're going to be crossing your midline today, getting yourself ready to hear the information we're sharing. So you're going to stand back to back with your partner. And you're going to pass the balloon to each other while you say the alphabet. So A, B, C, you got it. Go for it when you're ready. Awesome. Great work. You guys can go ahead and have a seat. Thank you. So that's just a small activity. You don't have to use a balloon. You can use any kind of thing at home with little ones just to kind of re-engage in what they're doing. So again, after you've gotten up and kind of gotten your heart moving a little bit, you want to bring it back down and do that breathing activity. So the hand that you see on the screen on the left, it's just called hand breathing. So you breathe in as you're going up and breathe out as you're going down. So let's do it together. You hold up your hand, show all 5 fingers. In, going up. Out, going down. In, going up. Out, going down. In, going up. Out, going down. In, going up. And out, going down. Last one. In, going up. And out, going down. Perfect. Thank you all for indulging in that, and maybe those are little takeaways for later. All right, I'm going to pass it back.
Thank you. I just feel much better and relaxed now with that breathing. Thank you, Dr. Spear. All right, so to set the stage for today, I have some data on the slide that this is pre-COVID data. So this is national data that things that we know across the nation. And this is from mentalhealthfirstaid.org. But this is, again, pre-COVID. So think about this. 1 in 5 youth, and youth meaning school age to 17, 18, that time frame, experience a mental health challenge at some point in their life. Not mental health illness, not mental health disorder, but just a challenge. So at a period of time where there's some mental health challenging. So 1/5. And that's not surprising. 17.1 million youth under the age of 18 have had or have a psychiatric disorder, more than the number of children combined with cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. So that's a significant amount, right? And so this is the data that's been recognized over the past years to then cause the nation and then the states and then rolling out into the school systems to support this in our schools. And 7.4% of children in the United States have a mental health visit in a given year, meaning a need for services, maybe something to, such as on-point services or with a counselor. And so these data have compelled, again, the nation and then individual states to put some things in place across the board in the community as well as in the schools. And that's driven a lot of our work to follow along. And according to the Florida Department of Education, certainly put a lot of things in place after the Parkland shooting in Broward County. And some of that is what you're going to hear about today. Again, our auspice or our charge is to identify students who might need some support and then connect them with support. And all the time engaging the parents and getting parent permission, whether it's in school or an outside provider referral. So this is really just kind of setting the stage for what we're going to be approaching today. And Dr. Spear will then start talking about something called Youth Mental Health First Aid. She's going to give a little bit of the history. And when you think of first aid, how many of you are certified for to CPR certified, lifeguard? All right, first aid, right? So she's going to go into that connection with youth mental health first aid.
All right, so youth mental health first aid, as Dr. Jenkins said, came about due to the incident in Parkland. So statute was created that wanted all school board employees to be trained, and not just teachers, not just administrators, custodians, cafeteria, instructional assistants, all employees trained in youth mental health first aid so that they can identify those signs and symptoms. They're the people who see the students on a day-to-day basis and can notice those subtle changes to hopefully prevent something from happening in the future. So it's a public program to respond to those signs of the mental health challenge. It was actually started in Australia and made its way over stateside and to more than 25 other countries. So it is evidence-based and it's evaluation studied that the course is effective. It does help prevent events from happening. And like I said, not just for teachers, but all school staff, because they're all there and can possibly be that trusted adult for a student. It is not therapy or a support group, and it doesn't teach the skills to be a therapist. Just like those of you who raised your hand that said you're CPR certified, none of you are doctors. Maybe you're a doctor, sorry. But there's no expectation that if you're CPR certified that you're a medical doctor. If you are youth mental health first aid certified, there's no expectation of you providing therapy or those responsibilities associated with it. The format of the course is a day-long course that's face-to-face. For our staff, we do a 2-hour virtual that's self-paced, and then they come in for the rest of it for the face-to-face process. So later on in the presentation, you're going to hear about an opportunity for you as parents to get trained in that youth mental health first aid and to be certified. So stay tuned for that. I won't take the wind out of the sails of that presenter. So we're going to do a quick activity. This is you. This is, yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so let me ask you this. What pops into your mind when you think of mental health disorder? Bipolar? Anxiety, depression? Schizophrenia? What is the common understanding around folks that are challenged with these? What are some terms that we hear? Nuts, retarded, crazy, yeah, right? So the mental, yes, she's gone mental, absolutely. So we do have some language around folks that are struggling. We wouldn't necessarily, if somebody, if I were to have broke my leg and need crutches, we might not refer to the negative physical aspects, but for some reason in our society, there is a little bit of a stigma with mental and challenges, social challenges, emotional challenges, mental challenges, right? So we're gonna work on an activity to begin to uncover the stigma, so then we can be more aware and less stigmatizing to folks that are in need of services related to a challenge. So you should have on your table an activity. So we'd like you to pair up. You're already at tables. If you're at a table alone, please walk over and we don't want you to be doing this all on your own, because it might be a little bit of challenging. So here are our instructions for this activity. So the first page looks like this. So what you're going to do, I'll give you the instructions, and you'll have like 15 minutes to work on this. The first page looks like this. So at your table, there are different types of stigma, and we got this from the resource, the NAMI resource, the National Alliance for Mental Illness resource, and that's all on the great resource online. But there are definitely different types of stigma. That we spoke about some, but so read at your table, review these definitions and kind of get a handle on what they are and discuss that. And then your challenge at your table, and don't do this alone because it might not be that easy, is to find on page 2, we have a little scenario. And then among your table, talk about which one of the definitions of the 7 types fits best into that scenario. Some of the scenarios might have more than one application, but one of the definitions fits best into that, okay? That makes sense? So you're going to understand the different definitions, and then you're going to work through the scenarios to assign each of the 7 to these, and you can write on this. Because as you're doing this activity, our team are going to pass out a clean copy for each of you to take back that has the answer key on it. So don't open it unless you have to, okay? So we're going to pass a clean copy out to you so you have this activity should you want to take it back to your schools and share it with your parent teams there. All right, so we're going to work about 10, 15 minutes on this. When we're ready to come back together, I'll stand here, put my hand up, give you a minute warning, and then we'll debrief on the activity, okay? Any questions on the instructions? Good? Okay, we'll be around to help, and I'll also pass out the answer sheet. Okay, we're going to close up in about 1 minute. So just finish your conversation, and I'll come back in 1 minute. Okay, folks. Thank you so much for the discussions. We're going to debrief here, but first of all, I want you to let you know that Miss Maffeo, will send these out to you electronically. So you will have this activity to, not only do you have a clean copy with you right now, but she will send it electronically, so you have it electronically as well as to print at your school. The last parent meeting, did everybody... Perfect. Yes. She'll make sure she has your current email address. Okay. So there was a lot of great discussion. Thank you so much for your time on this activity. The reason we wanted to bring this up is because it's very worthwhile. We didn't mean to spring a test on you, but it was open book because we did pass this out. But I want to know your reflections in a couple of ways. In your role as a parent, in your life, you're a parent, you're a sister, you're a brother, you're a daughter, you're a son, you're a cousin, you're a community member, you are maybe a SAC member or a PTO member. You have different roles in your life. In your roles, have you seen any of these stigmas or a combination of these stigmas? And then who might want to share what you've seen in the role and why it's important to understand this?
I have a son that has ADHD, and when he was in elementary school, he was given, I always confuse the difference between a 504 and an IEP. I can't remember which one it is. And I actually did not decide to use it because I did not want the stigma in the education system to exist. And so he has gotten lots of behavioral counseling and medication, and he's never had to use it. But I feel bad telling people that because I don't want them to not use it. But I think that stigma definitely exists.
So I've been a nurse for over 30 years. I'm a nurse practitioner currently, and as you reflect on your life, I'm also a mother. I have teenagers. I think that the stigmas are not, I think they're fluid.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think they change based on your personal experience with situations. I think they change based on where you are in your life cycle. We sat here and we came up with some of these, we came up with at least 2 that were appropriate for
Yes.
the responses. And we didn't necessarily agree with your choice, but we look at these from a different perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Several can contribute to each one of these. Yes. Thank you. And when you put a scenario down and you're trying to at least put one in, that's just one of the best choices. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I also think it works the opposite way. So some people might have a stigma about ADHD, but it doesn't look the same in all kids. And so because my daughter was always well behaved in school and very quiet and withdrawn, everybody thought she was just shy and quiet, but it was anxiety, and she wouldn't even ask questions of teachers or, do anything to disrupt that. But as soon as she got home, and a lot of you probably have this, the child was like a crazy nut outside of the home, but the schools and the teachers wouldn't recognize that there's attention deficit where, you're just paying attention and you're staring at the teacher, but it's kind of going over your head and there's too much else going on for you to concentrate. And then there's, inattentive and the hyperactive. So I think to say, that child doesn't have it and not label them because that child doesn't want the stigma, and be able to say, I'm overwhelmed right now and I need a break.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking in those different environments is very helpful. Yes. Thank you for that.
So I have this little nephew who is autistic to a degree that he can't communicate verbally. Now, for anybody else, they would see his outrageous sounds and actions as something severe. If you stop and watch this child, he is brilliant. He is brilliant beyond our ability to grasp his brilliance.
And he is communicating.
He totally is communicating. He's just not communicating like we do.
Exactly.
And so what
Yeah.
I keep trying to tell his mother is, he's not going to fit into your mold.
Mm-hmm.
You need to fit into his, because he's got his own thing going on, and your world's only going to be enhanced if you learn how to understand him. He's so brilliant.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely. I've learned that from our teams here. People are communicating and just I need to get in on that communication, and then my
Yeah.
world will be opened up.
Right. No iPad at dinner table. How about in his world, there's an iPad at the dinner table?
There you go.
It's that kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Any other reflections? We have one back there and then up here after you're done.
I just want to speak of my experience as a very young mother with a son that I now know is on the spectrum of autism. I was just telling my partner here that at the time, now you think 20 years ago, he had a doctor that was getting ready to retire. So that's the age group. And he thought that he just needed more spankings and discipline at the time. But for me as a young parent, and we do have a lot of young parents in our district, the stigma attached to those issues, sometimes they feel, and I did, that it makes them a bad parent and it's a reflection of their parenting. So a lot of times I think that stigma that goes along with that is doubled when it comes to our young parents.
Absolutely. Yes. And I love the way you mentioned it. It's throughout our life cycle as we grow as adults. We see things differently and overcome that as well. But I agree 100%. It was right here. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
We were actually just speaking about this before we started talking about it as a group. And Lisa and I, we too felt like that. Pardon me, just one. We also felt like it just depended on your perspective. If you were taking the perspective of the person with the mental challenge or whatever, then you would see it as one way for the stigma. Obviously, if you're the parent being a protective parent or mama bear or however you like to look at it, you had a different perspective. So this exercise was excellent because, like you said, we were like, wait, it could be this one. It could be this one, So we really enjoyed it. And we do appreciate that you're going to send it out. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that's the point. It's not trying to fit the right answer in the right box. It's the discussion around the whole piece. And so absolutely fitting different ones in there.
I just had a question that was revolving around ADHD and autism both. I've had kids that fit both of those. And I just wish that there were more resources in the school, and maybe they're there where the ADHD kids could talk to each other. My daughter is trying to navigate it herself, and I think the kids would all benefit in elementary setting to, if there were some time, like even once a month, where the kids with ADHD could sit down and talk amongst themselves and talk about what it's like to have ADHD. Particularly girls, I think that would be really beneficial for. But I just wondered if there was anything available.
It's not a set thing at every school, but that's something that definitely in the small groups that can be. I would advise maybe speak with your counselor, or you can speak after the meeting today and get some advice from our social workers, because we can help you with your school, connect you with somebody, and get that and have that small group going. But a lot of what we're doing in our schools is reducing that structural stigma in BPS to make it. Help our kiddos who need that small group peer-to-peer support is amazing when the kids support each other, as well as developing that community classroom. But we're hopefully you will learn today a little bit more about how we are reducing that structural stigma in this institution here. The one that gets me is the perceived stigma with our kiddos. I come from I'm a teacher. I taught in the classroom and then landed in the student services world. So I'm not a social worker like our experts here. I'm not a school psychologist, but I'm a teacher. But the quiet ones were the ones I always kept my eye closest on, because all behavior is communication, right? So the ones that are letting you know on ongoing basis what they need, that's fine. But the ones that were quiet, or the ones I was really attentive to make sure I understood what their needs were and that they had what they needed. So do we have another? Yes.
It's me.
Oh, hi.
This is kind of my wheelhouse in this format, because I have two children. One is autistic, one has PDD. They both have sensory disorders on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And my PDD has ADHD as well. So that all being said, I felt like I needed to say two things. Okay. In all my research.
Acronyms.
Okay. It's the mildest form. It's basically the neuropsychologist that did my children's diagnoses. There's series, like months long of series of evaluations, and then each evaluator takes their results and then they combine that. So the PDD portion is non-defined. So she didn't score high enough to have the label of a diagnosis of autism, where my son clearly did. But they don't discredit it. So she's kind of like straddling the line between the two. Persuasive, what is it?
Pervasive developmental
Yes.
disorder. Delay.
Yes, it's pervasive developmental delay, and it's typically with our younger students because we don't know yet. The medical professionals are not quite sure yet what's going on, but what they see are developmental delays across all their developmental milestones that impacts their ability to make progress. So you might see, you know, walking, you might see talking, you might any of those developmental milestones, you might see that there. And then the other one, did you say ASD? Autism spectrum disorder. So that again, we used to have something called Asperger's, and then they had autism, and now they've taken away that Asperger's label. And so when we have our students with ASD, we might see them across the spectrum, from high functioning students. Those students are like academically talented, but they have some communication deficits in that lens, and to the point, and then we go down that spectrum to where we might have nonverbal students and students with significant challenges in every area of their development. So.
Okay, so continue with your reflection.
And that being said, like
Thank
the
you for bringing that up.
Asperger's element, they should have kept that because that's very specific and completely different than others necessarily. But my autistic son is a 4.0 junior in high school. Amazing, doing fabulous. Early intervention is so important. Started him at 2 years old. On and on. My daughter, on the other hand, is doing amazing as well, honor roll student. But she didn't have all the signs. So, and she was also on the opposite end of the spectrum, sensory wise, that she didn't fit in the same box at all with my son. And I felt like I knew everything, autism and sensory and all that, because he was an overwhelmed, you know, everything sensory wise, he would shut down on. She was a thriver. She was a seeker. She liked to touch, she liked to smell, and she liked to,
Everything,
she thrived in that. My motor skills with my son, you know, he wasn't very artistic. She in preschool was putting a little tiny little reflection in an eyeball on her stuff. So you don't recognize it. But my whole reason for saying that is, out of all of my experience and all of my research and all of my stuff, parents have been my biggest advocate. Sure, I've learned the most from them. But there's a book called The Highly Sensitive Child, and it has nothing to do with the label autism. I'm telling you, I also have a 29-year-old who's pre-med, who's ridiculously smart, neurotypical. So, I mean, I've had all aspects of each child. That one book, and there's an online website that has a test that you can even go through and you can check off. A lot of people don't know about sensory. Sensory is ginormous. That book is an easy read. It's not medical. It's an opinion-based, maybe per se. She thinks that her reasoning behind it is having to do with species survival. Whether that's true or not, I don't really care. The crux of what I got out of that book changed my life. And this was when my son was in elementary school, and he was probably about 6. And I'll wind it up quickly, but it's a proactive approach. It spells out so many different ways, age-appropriate wise. So back when he was little, I tried to get him on a boat. He wouldn't overload. Wasn't worth it. Take me back. I'm done. I'm tired. I tried it on for size for the first time after reading that book. And I told him everything, literally, because it was age-appropriate. I needed it. So I was like, we're going to walk on the dock, and there's not going to be something to hold on to. We're going to walk on the boat, and it's going to sway. And then Darlene's going to get in the boat, and then she's going to turn it on, and it's going to go, you know, like every sensory expectation When we start to move, the wind's going to be in your hair. And I'm telling you, guys,
Wonderful.
I had tried everything to get him on a boat. I live in Merritt Island. I'm on an island. I like boats. He played pirate that
Wow.
all day long.
Wonderful.
I mean, I cried thinking about it every
That's
time.
amazing.
And I told him everything to expect. Now, as he got older, age appropriate wise as it goes, I started to ask him, what do you think is going to happen? So you're teaching him and you're prepping him and you're preparing them that when you're not around, he's instinctively asking himself
Absolutely.
and preparing before he goes into a loud mall, before he goes into something. And I got all of that credited to the book.
And
it
it's
has
called The
nothing to
Highly
do-
Sensitive Child?
Highly sensitive,
Highly sensitive child.
It
Right,
is
wonderful.
amazing. And then the
Yeah.
only other thing I wanted to tab out is my kids went to Lewis Carroll. Tina Drummond is amazing. I love her with the school board now. She advocated hard to have her, and each school's going to be different, so your principal's going to have to acknowledge and support this because it's parent run, a sensory classroom.
Yes.
And she did not put her rules on an IEP or a 504. It was all based on teacher recommendation who needed it. So you have your ADHD kids who need to bounce it out for
Sure.
15 minutes.
Absolutely.
And they get in there and they bounce, right? And then they go back and they're regrouped. Now
Right.
you also have the opposite end of the spectrum where you've got kids who needed to ground themselves and root themselves. So we had a gravity swing and they would get in there and they would just peace out
Right.
for their time frame.
Yeah.
And
that
huge
all,
difference.
Those type of settings, you're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that. The highly sensitive child, and then the sensory classrooms. All of those will help reduce. We have those in a lot of our schools, and they help reduce the stigma not only with disabilities, but with mental and emotional support. So again, I want to thank you for your time with this activity. We're going to move on. You will get this in Word. You can change it up. You can change up the instructions. You can make it better back with your folks. So that's why I make sure you have it in Word. And we are moving on. So thank you for your time here. You have that in a clean copy. They're right there. So you had a practice copy for the activity, and then we passed out the clean copy with the answer keys. They did it without the answer key. Way to go, team. Okay, I'm going to pass it on, and you will get both on Monday electronically. The activity that you can write on, and then the clean copy as well with the answer key.
So we have another section. We were going to do the break, but that conversation was so incredible that we went a little over our regular time. So I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable sitting for too long. So it's 10:54. We're going to come back at 11:10 and wrap us up for the rest of our morning. So we'll go ahead and stand up, stretch. Restrooms are out either of these double doors just behind the wall.
Bathroom is right around the corner.
We're going to come back in 1 minute. All right, welcome back from the break. Hope everyone had an opportunity to stand up and stretch just a little bit. So earlier in the presentation, I gave you an overview of the youth mental health first aid, but wanted to give you a little bit of a deeper dive into parts of the sections, hopefully as a teaser, so that you'll be more interested in completing the training. So what I'm doing will not count as training. Again, I'm just giving you the overview of the process. So 2 of the main sections in the training is how to approach a non-crisis situation and how to approach a crisis situation. So I'm going to give you some highlights from the non-crisis situation section. So the whole training centers on this acronym ALGEE, A-L-G-E-E. The A has 2 meanings. It's to assess and approach. It's the way you begin interacting with a youth you think might be in a non-crisis situation, but might be having a mental challenge. The L is to listen non-judgmentally. The G is give reassurance and information. And the 2 E's are encourage appropriate professional help for the youth, as well as encouraging self-help for you as the youth mental health first aid provider. So the A, the assess and approach. So as a trained youth mental health first aider, you're always assessing. You are parent. You are going to do this instinctually. You're assessing the situation because you want to be prepared if it does become a crisis, because you're going to have to pivot your approach at that point. The A, the approach, that's how you go about speaking to that student. No one likes to be called out in front of their peers. So you'd want to take them to a private location, have it where they can actually be candid about what they're talking about. So the approach, considering being culturally sensitive, if what you're asking of the student and what the setting you're asking of the student to share that information. So those are the 2 A's, are to assess and approach. So talked about the non-crisis situation, being prepared if it does escalate to a crisis. So a couple of things that may become a crisis situation if someone's having a panic attack. You can use some de-escalation strategies and it might be okay. It might not be okay, and you have to move forward as a crisis. Aggressive behaviors, substance misuse, and following a traumatic event. All of those could easily escalate to a crisis situation. Immediate crises that you won't go through the ALGEE process, that you'll need to immediately get additional support, a medical emergency, a non-suicidal self-injury, they have suicidal thought, or the severe effects of substance misuse. So again, like I said, you want to approach them in a private location so that they're comfortable to speak. Make sure that you are comfortable and aware that the person, you may not be the appropriate person for them. If you know that there's a trusted adult in their life that's on that school campus, or if this is during a Girl Scout meeting, or if it's at soccer practice, if there's a trusted adult who may be more appropriate, enlisting that person that's going to make that student feel more comfortable. And kids don't want to disappoint. So when they're asked, is everything okay? A lot of the time they're going to downplay it. They're going to be like, I'm fine. So just let them know you're available when they're ready, and don't pressure them to talk about it right at that moment. Just because you're ready to talk doesn't mean they're ready. So the L in ALGEE is to listen non-judgmentally. So when you're sitting with a child, you want to ask yourself these questions. Are you prepared to ask questions without judgment? Because the last thing the student wants to do is to feel judged in that moment when they're already experiencing an event. Again, are you the best person? Is there somebody else who is a more trusted adult in their life, someone who's already built a rapport? This is not a negative reflection on you if you're not their person. It's amazing that you would recognize that and get them to the right person for them. And then can you invest the time that's needed? I equate this statement to when you run into somebody when you're walking down the hall. Oh, hey, how you doing? Good, good, yep, good. You're not listening. How are you doing? You're not listening to them. You just want a good, you want to keep going. This is not that. You want to know that you've got the time to invest in a real conversation. And your nonverbal cues, making eye contact or appropriate eye contact with them, your posture, your body language, and the power of silence. Silence can be really uncomfortable, especially for the person asking. Give them a moment. They might have to stop and process what you're asking, or give them a moment to process their thoughts before they share them with you. Don't feel like you have to fill that dead air. They might just appreciate having you sitting there with them, knowing I'm safe, I'm with somebody, this is all I need right now. So the G is giving reassurance and information. You just need to make sure they know, like I said, you're there in that moment with them, they're safe. But knowing that you would have the resources to share if they needed something beyond that time with you. So you're reassuring them in the moment and then able to provide follow-up information. So you should have got, the yellow. There are local resources that we're making available to you. They're passing out a yellow resource card. So it's a one-stop shop with all sorts of agency information that's available to us here in Brevard. So I wanted to highlight just the yellow cards in the middle, but 988 and 211. Has anybody heard about 988? Perfect. So that's the National Suicide Hotline. It used to be a long 1-800 number that nobody knew that off the top of their head. They'd have to look it up. 988, so much easier to remember. It's a phone call or a text. So that one is our new, became available just in the last few months. So we're excited about that. And then 211 Brevard is where they can connect you with all the resources that are available on that yellow card. So hang on to those cards. So the first E in ALGE is to encourage appropriate professional help. In certain situations, you're not going to be the person that they need. They're going to need someone with a professional ability to support them. So it might be a medical doctor, it might be a social worker, the counselor, the crisis support specialist. It could be anybody on the front or the back of that yellow card that you're holding. So knowing that those people are available and knowing how to connect those resources is part of that E, encouraging appropriate help. Oh, yep, go ahead. Caitlin, we're asking for a file of that yellow card. Yes, we will get that out to you as well. And encouraging self-help. It is going to be a weight on your shoulders. And again, parents know this. When someone has laid something on you, right? It weighs on you mentally and it can weigh on you physically. So just having a plan in place to take care of yourself after a process like that. Don't wait until you're exhausted to decide to take a break. Don't wait until you're overwhelmed to make a plan to feel better, right? So this is something you should have in place. I'm taking the giggling as some connection to that. You want to establish a self-care plan already. So if you don't already have self-care in your life, please make it a point. That's your homework for tonight. Find something that just lets you be you and lets you recharge and relax. Who is that safe person for you that you can depend on? Maybe it's a husband, maybe it's a wife, maybe it's a best friend. If you're fortunate enough to still have parents, if it's a next door neighbor, it can be anyone, friend from church. But you need those outlets to relax and recharge because you're exhausted. So take a moment at your table and have some conversation. I know that you've got your little yellow cheat sheet now, but what kind of local resources do you know that you might be able to refer a youth to? Just take maybe 2 minutes to chat at your table. take a moment. All right, let's come back together. I'd love to hear from two tables who had great conversation on what your thoughts were on resources that you could refer. I want to make sure we have a microphone so that our at-home friends can hear us. I see a hand. Thank you.
We were happy to see that there is a parent support line.
Absolutely. Perfect.
And I know to answer your question, though, you asked if there were,
Any other resources?
Yeah, for the kids. I saw Brave's Peer Network, which it says Peer Network for individuals who are in recovery from mental illness and substance abuse. So I like that. Oh, and I actually wanted to mention one thing real quick, too. The woman asked about groups at our elementary school. They do have a lunch bunch group, and they get together. So I think you did recommend talking to the counselor. It was a counselor that reached out to me. So I would definitely talk to your school. They might even have something like that already.
Absolutely. Thank you. Oh, right behind you. One more thought you had. It might be something from the yellow card that stuck out to you or something that you didn't see. Oh, I actually see two hands, so we'll talk to both.
What I think is much needed for parents is the understanding of what high functioning autism looks like, especially those that mask and don't allow others to see that they're feeling different or suffering. And I do not see any resources here that touch upon that, because a lot of times they look like behavioral issues or ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. And I feel like that's needed much in the school systems as well and in the community, so that people are aware of that and don't punish these children who then become angrier and more defiant, feeling misunderstood.
Absolutely. Thank you. Right here.
I also wanted to mention for any of our students that have, or schools that have military connected students, we do have military family life counseling services that are available to those students. We have a couple different schools that have ones embedded in the schools that visit regularly, but we also have a child and youth one that's stationed out at the base. So if there are students at any schools that fall under active duty military, any branch of service that are in need of services, we can do referrals to them as well.
Thank you.
So I think the resource card is great, but I have high school students, and I think what I don't know, and I'll share a story that kind of tells you why. What I don't know is if I was in a position where I identified a situation that needed immediate attention, I'm not quite sure how to address that. So about 6 years ago, my best friend's daughter was a freshman. She had a friend who was struggling, and the friend...
Talk right into the microphone. We're having a hard time hearing you.
The friend was expressing suicidal ideation, and the student, my friend's daughter, reached out to her mom because she knew this was a problem and this student needs help. And her mom, fortunately, had access to a contact at the high school, and they were immediately able to intervene. Now, this story has a great happy ending. Unfortunately, because my friend's daughter ratted her out. It created an, uncomfortable situation throughout high school. Since then, both of these kids are now in college, and the person that was struggling mentally with mental health issues at that time has reached out to my friend's daughter and said, thank you. Thank you for helping me. I would not be here doing what I'm doing right now had you not done that, because you helped me get the help I needed. But I think that I don't know who I would call in that situation directly at my high school to help my student. So maybe have high school administrators give us some sort of resource. I get a newsletter every week from the high school, so maybe embedding some sort of resource that I could click on that and say, oh, hey, here's the information.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh,
So are there social workers at every school?
Not at every school, but if a school doesn't have one, they're assigned a district social worker that supports that school.
Thank you for being there.
So that last E, talking about the self-help, these are just some of those ideas. Remember, make sure you have that self-help plan for yourself so that you are taking care of you. You hear it all the time, you can't pour from an empty cup. So you're not able to fully support someone unless you're in a really good place. So make sure. And down in that bottom corner, many more. Please don't think this is all inclusive. If you don't yoga, don't yoga. Do what you do. All right, so just take a moment at your table, less than a minute. Think about when you were in school, in high school, elementary school. How was mental health approached then to how we're approaching it now? Is that kind of the general feeling? It wasn't talked about. Nobody did anything. So there's been leaps and bounds made in supporting these things. I don't remember who said it, but it was, well, they're acting up. They need to be punished. There was never that trauma-sensitive lens that we approached it before. So I'm just so proud at the advances that we're making and the strides that we're making in supporting kids in an appropriate manner. All right, new topic. This is, you have a handout on your table, and I'm not sure we got to that back row of tables, but if not, it's on the screen. Really, what you need is that QR code. A new district mentoring program has been started this school year, and I'm sure you may have seen it on our social media already. Dr. Mullins talks about it anytime he has an opportunity. But you are already our parent leaders in our schools, so I'm asking your support. I'm asking your help. I'm asking for your voice. Please sign up to be a mentor, especially if you're already on your school campuses volunteering. If you've already done fingerprints in the background check, you're halfway there. On this website, there's 5 mentor training modules. Takes about 35 minutes total to watch all 5 of them. Little exit slip at the end, and we can connect you with the school mentor coordinator at the campus that you choose. Maybe you are doing enough at your own child's school and you want to support another school that's in your neighborhood. Beautiful. Be a mentor wherever you're able to. We're asking for 30 minutes that you sit with a child and let them know that there is just one additional caring, supporting adult out there for them that they can turn to if they need to. So QR code's on the screen. It's also on the handout on your table. Please encourage. Caitlin's going to send that handout out to you as well that you can share at your school campuses. And we look forward to welcoming you on campus in a different capacity. Yes, ma'am.
Is the mentoring, would you say that's similar to like Big Brothers, Big Sisters?
I don't know enough about Big Brothers, Big Sisters to say that, so I don't want to reflect on that.
But it's just something where you go and you talk to them.
And on the website, we give you a sample agenda of things you can talk about with them, kind of a time frame to go through.
And just 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Now, what the question was, is it 30 minutes a week, 30 minutes a month? It's what works for your schedule and that you work out with the school and their student. I know you might have heard of Take Stock in Children. That's also a Brevard mentoring program. So this is definitely not in competition with that. Take Stock, there's a lot more requirements involved, and there's time constraints, and it's really geared towards secondary students. This mentoring program is for every student, every age.
Just really quick, do you have to be a parent to do it? Or
Absolutely not.
They just have to be fingerprinted and take
Correct.
the course?
Any community member. And a lot of the ones we've had sign up they've reached out to me afterward. They're like, I really want to do this, but I don't have any connection to a school. I said, cool. Do you live in Brevard? They said, yes. I said, then you're connected to the school. Yes, ma'am.
Are there mentor coordinators at each
Every
school?
single school.
Okay.
Yes. So as soon as you complete this, I get notified that you are ready to be a new mentor, and then I connect you with that mentor coordinator.
So how does a child sign up, and are their parents aware? Yes.
So schools will recommend students who want mentors. Parents can ask for their child to be a mentor, but every student before they're matched, there's a parent consent. Absolutely. Great question. Thank you. Back corner.
I'm on the website for the mentoring application right now, and I noticed as soon as I clicked on it, I got a non-fillable PDF copy. Would I need to print that out, fill it out, and if so, is there somewhere that would be best to drop that off?
You'll turn that. Are you talking about the mentor agreement form? Yep. You'll turn that into the school mentor coordinator when you guys meet the first time. Thank you. And the it's all. Yep. All of it goes to the school person. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Spear. Okay, I want to move forward because we've got a wonderful next piece that Carrie will come up and share. So again, the youth mental health first aid, we will offer that training, and Lori will tell you how to do that in just a minute, but Dr. Spear just took you through a quick overview of one little piece. That's an 8-hour training that will take you through and build skills if you're interested, or any of the parents in your school are interested. Another piece I'm proud to share that Brevard Schools is participating in 2018, when Governor DeSantis was elected, the mission of the First Lady of the state of Florida was providing this instruction in schools. So in the Florida legislator put in statute that grades 6 through 12, every 6th through 12th grader will receive 5 hours of instruction in mental and emotional health education. And so we are implementing that here. And so every 6th grader through 12th grader receives these 5 hours every year. And in Bavard's response is we put a committee together under the leadership of Dr. Sullivan in Leading and Learning, and Chris Moore, my boss in Student Services. And we have a collaborative team that puts together, has developed this instruction for grades 6 through 12. This committee is so amazing and put such good things together that even other districts purchase it from us, or they want our curriculum, and so we share it with them. And this committee and the work of this committee regarding this instruction has been noticed by the state. So this is another thing that we're very proud of. We're continuing to get input and receive input from students and teachers and staff to make it better every year. And so this is ongoing. What you need to know as your parent contact is that some of the topics include healthy coping skills, resiliency, around social media, healthy social media practices, reducing stigma, like we just did, reducing stress, anxiety, and school and community resources. So what you need to know is any parent can go and review these lessons. You just have to go into your school, and they will sit down and review the lessons with you if you want to preview that, or if they're interested in seeing what these are. So that's one more piece I'm very proud of to offer, that our committee is just continuing to provide that support. And it was a cross selection of, as Carrie's coming up, our school psychologists, our school social workers, our school counselors, and some of the instructional health education staff as well. So, and if you have any questions on that, I will be around after to answer those. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dixon now, who will then take us through our resources.
So, good morning again. There were a couple of questions that I heard from folks about how do we get our students, how do we identify students that might need some intervention? okay? We've developed pathways. We call it the mental wellness pathways. So it's not necessarily only mental health. It's sometimes we're working on lifelong learning skills, that we need to be able to function as adults. So we have 3 pathways that a student could enter into getting support in school. So pathway 1, alrighty, that is like an immediate intervention. So if you had a student that was expressing some suicidal ideation, okay, that would be those students. We do an assessment on them, and depending on where they come out in that assessment, it might go straight to maybe a hospitalization or back to their private practitioner in school, in the community, or some support in school. Okay. Also in pathway 1, we also have, if we did a threat assessment on a student, sometimes that reveals that a student might need some support in the mental health area. And then sometimes, not as much, when we have school-wide crises going on, and students, we always give a space for students to come up and just express some feelings. Sometimes the crisis triggers a memory or an experience that student had that they have not resolved as yet. And that's another way that we can get student support. The pathway 2, typically, students in our pathway 2 are receiving services from our contracted agencies with BPS, and we have a couple of them there. So if the student, the parent, and the school-based support staff, whether it be your school counselor or your school social worker, if as a team they decide that that student might benefit from some mental health intervention, that is available for them. Then pathway 3 is what we do in school. So you'll see, I don't know, we have check and check outs for students where the school counselor, school social worker might be meeting with that student daily, twice a day, once a week, just supporting them to keep them attached to their classroom and in their classroom so that we can get academics. Sometimes there's groups. I heard something about groups here. Your school counselors, especially in elementary school, your school counselors and your school social workers are always running groups. They have lunch bunches. They have groups where they're dealing with coping skills. They have groups where they're dealing with teaching some anger management skills. So they have several different groups going on. How are those students identified for those groups? So several different ways. We might have the classroom teacher. Classroom teacher might say, Carrie's having some difficulty here with when she has an assignment and it's difficult for her. Her response to that, creates a disruption. Could be that. It could be Carrie has some difficulty sitting still. It could be Carrie has problems communicating effectively with her classmates. So teachers can do that. Sometimes parents come in and ask us for help. Hey, my kiddo has this going on. What do you have available? And here's the other. Sometimes the student themselves will come to us and say, I'm struggling with this. What can I do? We have students self-identifying that are having suicidal ideations or other things going on with them. And this is what I love most of all, and I always say that. Sometimes peers are referring their friends. Hey, my friend did this on Snapchat. My friend said this, I'm really worried about her. So they'll come to their teacher or their counselor or their social worker and tell them that. We reach out to the parent, we have conversation with the parent. If you're interested in them getting some supports in school, we get your permission and we get going, okay? Now, sometimes pathway 2 and pathway 3 are happening together, okay? We might have a student in counseling, but we're also supporting them on a daily basis in school. So typically that's how we are, we're getting our students that need help in school, Alrighty? If you have, I want to respect your time. So if you have any questions about this, I'll stay after, and we'll stay and answer any questions you have about this, okay? Alrighty, so you have that beautiful booklet on your table, and I saw some people already flipping through it. The Student Services Department put together that booklet this summer, and it's a working document, so we'll always be adding to it, alrighty? We have resources in there for mental health resources. We have resources in there for other types of things that are not mental health. We have resources in there for all different types of things. Let's see. I'm going to give you an assignment here. You have a scavenger hunt on your table. Everyone should have one. We might not have enough time to answer all of them, but see if you can flip through that guide and find some of the answers to the questions there. Please. I'll give you a hint. Every section in our resource manual has a title page or a title, so that's a hint. So if it's a mental health resource, if it's a vision resource, so let's see what we can find in there. Yeah, maybe about 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up, and then I will go through the answers with you and give you some of those answers. Okay, let's pull it back together, and I will go through the answers with you, and then you can probably write where to find those answers on your scavenger hunt sheet. Okay, the first one, what website provides information about the availability of community-based resources in Brevard County? Okay, that's one. There is also a new sort of website. It's named differently. It used to be called Aunt Bertha's, and now it's called findhelp.org. Findhelp.org, it's all online. It's an amazing website. You can get anything on there from mental health to housing assistance to food assistance. When you go on it, it has tabs. So you go into that tab, and then you open that tab, and it will give you a plethora sometimes of resources for what you are looking for. It is a really good website. We use it all the time because people call us and like, I don't know. So I use it all the time. Let me give you a hint about 211, okay? 211, before you call anything on that yellow card that you got, the quickest way is to go through 211, okay? Because 211, all the agencies keep them abreast of their funding sources, what they have going on, etc. So you could call 3 things on that yellow card, and you're not getting the answer you want. So when you call 211, that individual who answers the phone is going to be asking you leading questions, so they can narrow in and hone in to what resource that you really need, and then refer you to that resource. So they do all the hard work for you. The 211 is great. All righty. The second one. Name the medical practice conveniently located throughout Brevard that provides low-cost medical, dental, and behavioral health services for families. Brevard Health Alliance, yes. They have offices from Titusville or MIMS all the way to South Brevard, and they provide all of those services. If you know someone that does not have medical insurance coverage, they can still go because they're going to help that person secure some coverage. If you have private insurance, they also take private insurance. But it's a one-stop shop that is really has been effective already. The name of the state agency, the Florida state agency that provides insurance for children. Florida Kid Care, correct. There's a website if you need to apply. And what's nice about Florida Kid Care, when you go on that website, you just put in your information and they decide then which of their programs matches you the best. So you might apply for Kid Care and you end up getting Medicaid. So they really use that very nicely. Alrighty. Where can you find this guide online? I heard it. No, who said Parent Portal? Parent Portal, yes. Who said Parent Portal? Yeah, yeah. All righty. And I think everyone knows the answer to this because I answered it. Is a student able to receive mental health services in school? Okay, so let me give you a little caveat with that. For an agency, for a private agency to come in, even our contracted agencies, that child has to have Medicaid. If they have private insurances, unfortunately, the private insurance does not allow them to receive services unless they're in that provider's office. So most of our children or students, they're not children, are students who are receiving mental health services in school from an agency. A lot of them have Medicaid. The other thing that parents have done, because they actually want their child to receive services in school, they can talk to that agency, and some of them will do sliding scale. So that's an option if they don't have Medicaid, but the parent still wants the child to receive services in school. All righty?
How does that work when a child has an IEP where the the team has decided that they need these mental health services, then isn't the school obligated to provide them, whether that child has Medicaid or not?
Yes. If it is one of the interventions on the IEP, yes. If it's on the IEP, then we're responsible for providing it. If it's not on the IEP, then it goes through the other route.
I'm just going to say you have to keep in mind with your IEP, it has to be educationally based to qualify. So I don't know how that goes hand in hand with the educational piece that.
An IEP will have different domains. So if a student is having some social emotional concerns, that can be a domain on their IEP.
So it can qualify. That was my.
That would be it, but they have to be showing it, and it has to be impacting their education. If it's
Perfect.
impacting their education and their ability to be successful in school, that can be one of the domains, and then we provide that service.
Hi, I have a question. So is this a new policy that came through this year? Only because I'm asking, my son had ABA services privately in the school last year, and this year they're saying, I mean, he doesn't need it now, which is wonderful, but they were saying that the insurance would not cover it any longer in the school setting, and I didn't know if that was just my insurance or if that was BPS saying that, like if it's an agreement.
I would need more information
Okay.
to answer that question.
Okay. Yeah,
but if
we
it's
had
your
private-
insurance, then
Yes.
your insurance is telling
Yes,
us that.
okay, because
Yeah.
my son had a private ABA therapist with him in school for a few days a week.
And there is a way for us to go through the private ABA sort of stuff.
Right.
But if your insurance says that they're not going to pay the provider, then it's not
Yeah,
us.
he graduated out of that, so that's good. But I was just wondering if that's what you were referring to.
Okay.
No. Okay.
The team available to provide crisis support to families in our community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The mobile response team, MRT. So they are available for a crisis situation in the home. If you're having a crisis with a family member, or I think they go up to 25, and you can come out and 2 minutes. Oops. Okay.
And if you answer a question, you get a beach ball. So say it loud.
Oh, page 8. Sorry. I want to go to the last question because I think it's really important, the bonus question, because we only have 2 minutes. Where will you find counselors who are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to speak to an individual experiencing a mental health challenge? So one's a crisis, and now we're talking about a mental health challenge. Just available. Children's Home Society, and it's the correct. And that's on page 8. So, and then you can go from there, they'll talk to you, and then they can refer you out to different services. Oh, so we're passing out some postcards, and on that postcard is a QR code, and that QR code will lead you directly to the manual, the resource manual. Okay?
Just really fast, there was a woman back here that I had just met and she left. She asked me to bring up that in the book, there's nothing dealing with eating disorders.
Okay.
She had an experience, I'm not going to tell her story, but that she would like to see the eating disorders, something to help with here.
So we don't have any specific, I don't know of any specific agency locally that deals with eating disorders. So it's going to be private practitioners. That's their specialty. So, if they reach out to us, we can put them in our manual. And that's one of the things that we can highlight, that's they have an expertise in eating disorders. Okay. All right. And I'm here for any other questions after. Did anyone get all 10 answers? You got 9? You did? I know it here. 8? 7? 6? Oh, 7? Oh, all right. Who had 7? Oh, sorry. All right.
Okay, so now that you have some information about what youth mental health first aid is, there will be a class offered for parents. They are passing out the flyers right now. It will be on Wednesday, November 16th from 8:30 to 5 at the Center for Collaboration in Rockledge on US 1. The fee is $30. It does include lunch and materials. However, if you need a scholarship, I know there are some scholarships available because we want every parent to be able to have access to this class. So if you need that scholarship, you'll contact Johnette Gendling. The email is at the bottom. There's the Eventbrite link there as well. They need minimum 10 parents, and they can go up to 60 parents. So if this is something you're interested in, please go ahead and go to that link and sign up. I will also send this flyer to Caitlin to send out with everything else on Monday, so that if you know anyone else that might be interested, they can go the link. I don't know that yet, but that's a great question, and Johnette would be a good person to ask. So tell everybody you know if they're interested. Please encourage them. Oh, is that what you? I missed that part. It'll be her birthday, so I mean, everybody's got to go.
All right, can we give them a round of applause for all that great information? They're here for questions. If you have some offline, personal, specific questions, you guys can go and ask them. My other request is to take some food home, please. And expect the email with all of the materials, information, flyers, all the things will be in your email around Monday, because I have to get the recording, and then I will send that out with it. So, and then send that to whoever you see fit. So SAC, PTA, principal, friends you know who has kids that are, dealing with some stuff. So yeah, I'm here for questions too. Again, I'll say it again, eat the food. And I'll see you guys next time.